Sticking with what works is nothing new, especially in gaming. New stories, characters, and mechanics are increasingly rare. Long development times and ballooning budgets only compound the issue as studios must take a larger gamble with every project. Why take that risk when going with a guaranteed success is safer? That mindset prompts developers to exploit certain games to no end. They don't just make sequels. Rather, when studios stumble on a hit, they refuse to move on before milking it dry. In such cases, a single game can spawn remakes, remasters, ports, expansions, spin-offs, and adaptations. Granted, revisiting a beloved tale is a comforting experience as it lets audiences bask in those familiar feelings and remember why the work resonated with them in the first place. Then again, repeating this strategy can have the opposite effect. With enough exposure, even the most ardent fans may get sick of their old favorites. It's ultimately up to those fans to decide their breaking point. 10. The Last of Us. Zombie apocalypse tales were already plentiful before The Last of Us, but none matched this game's runaway success. The title revolved around a broken man named Joel, whose daughter died in the initial outbreak. After several years as a mercenary, he got a job transporting an immune girl called Ellie across the United States. Their shared struggles eventually brought them closer, letting them regain some sense of family in a ruined world. That father-daughter dynamic fueled the game for years to come. The Last of Us transcended both its genre and its console. Though initially a PlayStation 3 exclusive, it quickly got a remastered edition for PlayStation 4. These releases coincided with comic prequels, tabletop games, live readings from the cast, and theme park rides. Over the years, other consoles got ports of the remastered version leading up to the eventual sequel, The Last of Us Part 2. Even after this follow-up, the developers remade the original entry, releasing it yet again as The Last of Us Part 1. This remake immediately preceded a television adaptation on HBO. Clearly, fans will never see the last of The Last of Us. 9. The Elder Scrolls V. Skyrim. The Elder Scrolls was always popular with the role-playing crowd, but the fifth entry brought it to the mainstream. The Elder Scrolls V. Skyrim placed fans in a Nordic fantasy realm. Here, they functioned as the Dragonborn, a prophesied warrior who absorbed dragon souls and channeled their magic in explosive shouts. They could go anywhere and do anything, exploring the rich world and influencing pivotal events with their nuanced actions. That open-ended appeal was too addictive for its own good. Skyrim kept its company afloat for over a decade. Just 2 years after its initial release came the Legendary Edition with all 3 downloadable content packs. The next console generation saw the remastered Special Edition, which additionally came to the Nintendo Switch. After these releases, there was a virtual reality edition, aptly titled Skyrim VR. Finally, the game's 10-year popularity prompted the Anniversary Edition, packaging the previous downloadable content with a wealth of new content from both players and developers. It's easy to see how fans spent hundreds of hours in this mythical wonderland. After a gradual path to the mainstream, this fantasy franchise saw a massive hit with The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The threequel followed the monster-hunting Geralt as he searched for his adopted daughter, Ciri, whose world-hopping powers made her a target for a sinister band of spectral marauders. But honestly, what might have been even more engaging were the countless hours spent exploring the realm, taking on quests, and soaking up every painstaking detail. That adventure attracted legions of genre fans, and the widespread reach definitely got developers' attention. The 2 huge expansions, practically full games themselves, led to later releases like the Complete Edition and the Game of the Year Edition, which came packed with all the extra tweaks, fixes, and content. The subsequent Netflix series only boosted the franchise's esteem. Even though it was based on the books instead of the games, it pulled in more players, which pushed developers to add a few of its aspects to The Witcher 3. The studio then rolled those updates into a next-gen remaster for new systems. And all this doesn't even cover the title's card game, Gwent, which spun off into several games that dove into the book's lore. The developer's passion for this property really knows no bounds. Each mainline Final Fantasy game was a fresh story in a new world, but one entry, well, it just kept breaking that tradition. Final Fantasy VII kicked off with the evil Shinra Corporation draining the planet's magical energy for its twisted goals. Ironically, these schemes brought disaster, all spurred on by the company's greatest warrior and experiment, Sephiroth. The only hope rested with a ragtag group of heroes led by a former Shinra trooper named Cloudstrife. Only by solving the planet's ancient mysteries and harnessing its energy could they hope to save it from calamity. That rich mythology and intuitive gameplay shot Final Fantasy VII to the series' top tier, and honestly, it's no wonder it's gotten the most love after release. Besides porting the classic to other consoles, the developers expanded the world with a bunch of spin-offs, prequels, and sequels, including Advent Children, Crisis Core, and Dirge of Cerberus. Plus, the Kingdom Hearts series featured Final Fantasy VII characters as recurring guests. This ongoing fanfare eventually led to the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, which retold the original story with updated graphics, voice acting, and a new combat system. Looks like the creators might soon be as greedy as Shinra. In the massive list of Dragon Ball tie-ins, Xenoverse 2 has managed to stick around the longest. It lets players create their own custom character and travel through the franchise's history, actually changing pivotal events by fighting alongside the heroes. Building up your character meant learning from these heroes, or villains, and then testing those skills against other players in online matches. That steady stream of fan support is really what kept the game alive. Xenoverse 2 has added new features pretty much every year for a decade. Part of the demand came from the ever-expanding brand, with Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball Daima airing during the game's run, which kept enthusiasm high and gave developers a constant source for new DLCs. On top of all that, fans pitched in with their own creations through mods. All 40 years of Dragon Ball history have bit by bit been gathered into this single title. By the way, if there's any topic in this video that catches your eye, just comment down below and let me know if you want me to make a separate video on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Unlike its overblown successors, the first Resident Evil was actually a pretty small-scale affair. The story followed members of a special task force trying to escape a zombie-filled manor. That goal was a slow burn, as they carefully navigated the dangerous place, solved puzzles, gathered resources, and dodged monsters. Clunky controls aside, the game's patiently horrific atmosphere and meticulous mechanics made for a really immersive survival experience, especially compared to what came later. That kind of hindsight probably led to the game's many comebacks. Developers kept trying to recapture Resident Evil's magic without the old frustrations. Even though it started out on PlayStation, it soon made its way to PC and Sega Saturn, each version getting a handful of new features. But the classic quickly returned to PS1 with the Director's Cut, which offered new outfits, animations, modes, and item locations. That package even got a variation called the Dual Shock version, updating the music and supporting the new Dual Shock controller. After that, there was a GameCube remake and a Nintendo DS port, both with even more tweaks to gameplay and looks. And with a blockbuster movie series in the mix, fans really couldn't forget this horror story even if they tried. The Persona series is no stranger to re-releases, but Persona 3 got the most attention in this area. Like its peers, the RPG revolved around Japanese schoolchildren. Going about their daily routines, they found their city under attack from shadowy monsters, which they fought using the series' trademark turn-based combat. The gameplay loop was as dense as ever, but the developers stuffed it still further. This title received a re-release for seemingly every new feature. Persona 3. FES extended the playtime and added a harder difficulty option. This version became available on subsequent consoles through retro ports. On the other hand, the PSP saw its own rendition with Persona 3 Portable. This title condensed the experience into a visual novel, adjusted the narrative, and revamped the mechanics with Persona 4 as a template. Finally, fans got a full-blown remake in Persona 3 Reload, with all the benefits of modern hardware and recent entries. The tale's child stars should be seasoned adults by now. Half-Life mirrored Resident Evil in both narrative and history. Players controlled a scientist as he raced to escape a research station infested with aliens. Although the Foundation was a first-person shooter, the game heightened the tension through its maze-like structure and a lack of scripted sequences. The refusal to hold players' hands resonated, and they certainly showed their gratitude over the years. Half-Life was another classic nurtured by both developers and fans. The former followed the initial release with expansions like Opposing Force, Blue Shift, and Decay. These packs retold the story with new characters and multiplayer functionality. Plus, they went into subsequent ports on PS2, OS X, Linux, and the Source engine. On the fan side of things, modders used Half-Life's assets to craft separate titles like Counter-Strike and Day of Defeat. These efforts culminated in a complete remake called Black Mesa. Suffice it to say, Half-Life's Half-Life was longer than anticipated. The Grand Theft Auto games popularized open-world chaos, with this pivotal entry taking it to the extreme. Juggled three contrasting protagonists as they pulled off daring heists, often amid crooked government oversight and rival gangs. On top of the story's insanity, players got a kick out of Los Santos, a massive sandbox with a plethora of pastimes. The resulting hype lasted long after its debut. GTA enjoyed endless exposure post-release. A year after it first hit PS3 and Xbox 360, the game got a remaster for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. This version came with technical improvements and added gimmicks like first-person mode. Further tweaks came in the following generation with an expanded and enhanced version on PS5 and Xbox Series X. Meanwhile, developers continued the content with Grand Theft Auto Online, which used GTA V's open world for a handful of multiplayer modes. Only after a decade did they leave that world behind. This money-making scheme put the biggest heists to shame. The Pocket Monster series has seen an obscene number of entries, but they all stood on the first generation's shoulders. The original pair of Pokémon games, Red and Blue version, challenged players to assemble an elite team. Journeying across the land, they caught and trained Pokémon of various types. They then pitted these creatures against other trainers, earned 8 badges by beating corresponding gym leaders, and bested the Pokémon League to take the region's top spot. That simple yet irresistible formula drove multiple generations, but the developers didn't forget their roots. The initial Pokémon journey reappeared several times throughout the franchise. Shortly after its debut came Yellow version, a re-release to resemble the popular anime series, complete with a Pikachu companion. The subsequent Gold, Silver and Crystal versions also looked backward. Although these games mainly showcased a new setting, they also let players revisit the first generation's Kanto region and relive the classic journey once again. As if that wasn't enough, the developers later remade the titles twice, Fire Red and Leaf Green for the Game Boy Advance and Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee for the Switch. Gotta play 'em all. Wow, you guys have made it till the end of the video. And remember, according to YouTube, the best way to help the channel in the algorithm is to watch another one of my videos right after this one. So go ahead and check it out. Thanks for sticking around. See you soon. Until then, peace.